Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating for all you fans of classic MMO mechanics out there. We're going to look at how Immortal Realm takes the incredibly nostalgic framework of classic Ultima Online dungeons and just completely flips it on its head. Because this isn't just a simple trip down memory lane. We're talking about a deeply interconnected player versus environment ecosystem here. It's a world where the time you spend underground actually drives the entire server's economy, creates these super high-stakes survival scenarios, and constantly forces you to weigh massive risks against massive rewards.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the core experience, then move into the high stakes in Felucca, bosses and loot, the price of adventuring, the crafting economy, and wrap it all up with a progression roadmap. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The core dungeon experience. Let's lay the groundwork and establish exactly where your journey actually begins.
Now, if you know Britannia's classic open-world dungeons, these canonical locations are definitely going to ring a bell. You've got the Spies for beginners full of ratmen and orcs, Destard for your mid-tier dragon fights, all the way up to the high-tier demons in Hithloth and the intense boss-tier Gauntlet of Doom. But here is the real game changer in Immortal Realm. There is absolutely zero instancing. Zero. These are completely shared open spaces. You're going to face these classic foes, but you'll be constantly running into other roaming players. It creates this wildly dynamic environment where spontaneous teamwork or, fierce competition can break out at literally any second.
And we have to talk about the loot. A major frustration in vanilla UO is that the loot is just famously dilute. You get a ton of absolute trash, maybe some gold, and a terribly slim chance at finding anything actually useful. Well, Immortal Realm intentionally polishes these drop tables. Their whole philosophy is less trash, more meaning. So you're going to see way fewer useless items cluttering up your bags and a much higher concentration of drops that actually advance your character or hold real value. Basically, your time spent hunting is genuinely respected.
Moving on to Section 2, High Stakes in Felucca. Because as you gear up, you're inevitably gonna hit a wall. That wall forces a crucial choice. Do you play it safe, or do you risk absolutely everything? See, every dungeon has a Trammel version and a Felucca version. The monsters are identical, but the rules? Totally different. Trammel is your safe zone. You can just chill, farm at your leisure with zero player versus player threat. But Felucca is an open PvP zone. Anyone can attack you and snatch your hard-earned loot. So you might be wondering, why on earth would anyone go there? Well, it all comes down to exclusive, high-margin rewards.
This perfectly illustrates why players brave Felucca at all. Just look at these specific drop rates for exclusive materials. You've got a 30% chance for Feli iron ingots, a 25% chance for draconic scales, and a 20% chance for blood crystals from champion bosses. And here's the kicker. You cannot find these in Trammel. They do not exist there. These materials are the literal only way to unlock the top-tier crafting recipes on the server. If you want the absolute best gear, you or somebody you're trading with has to take on the lethal risks of Felucca. No way around it.
All right, Section 3, Bosses and Loot Tiers. Let's look at how all these risks build up to the ultimate payouts at the end of the run.
Way above your standard encounters, you've got these custom-tuned bosses. For the serious PvE guilds out there, the Doom Gauntlet is this massive weekly objective. And it's not just a single boss fight. It is a linked sequence of brutal, escalating rooms. You've got to fight through Mephitis, the giant spider, survive the dragon tier Richter, conquer Semidar the succubus, and push through waves of elite minions just to reach the Dark Father at the end. It takes incredible coordination, strategy, and just sheer endurance.
But, and this is crucial, you don't actually have to kill the Dark Father to feel rewarded. The devs structured the loot into very clear tiers: trash, useful, premium, and boss. And instead of forcing you to endlessly grind for that one single premium drop, the loot curve is heavily biased toward the useful tier. We're talking basic magic items, mid-tier reagents, runic comparable gear. It ensures that almost every time you go out farming, you're making real, tangible progress, rather than just pulling a slot machine lever for hours on end.
Section 4, The Price of Adventuring. Now this introduces a massive twist to the typical dungeon grind.
Think about it. In most games, you can farm a dungeon forever, right? You're only limited by your bag space or, needing to sleep in real life. But in Immortal Realm, spending excessive time underground actually has severe, tracked physical consequences for your character.
Enter Dungeon Sickness. This isn't just a little debuff with some neat flavor text, it's a chronic condition. If you stay in those dark depths past a certain threshold, you actually get sick. It actively weakens you. Your stamina recovery degrades, your healing is reduced.
Suddenly, trying to fight off that dragon is significantly harder because your character is physically breaking down from the damp, corrupt environment.
And man, it gets worse if you ignore it. The sickness actually progresses on a chain. It starts off as a simple dungeon cough, but if you leave it untreated for 3 hours of playtime, bam, cave sickness. 6 hours, deep rot. You can't just wait this out in a tavern either. You are actively forced to go find another player, specifically one trained as a chirurgeon, a medical doctor, to perform treatments like the steaming brazier rite, just to clear your lungs and get your stats back to normal.
Which brings us to the number 12. 12 is the amount of service points a chirurgeon earns for treating a standalone dungeon malady called callstones. Why is that a big deal? Because 12 points is literally the highest single treatment payout in the entire medical economy. It creates this brilliant social dynamic. The hardcore dungeon divers pulling the best loot are simultaneously the most lucrative, frequent patients for the service doctor players. Your monster hunting directly funds the healer economy.
Section 5, Fueling the Crafting Economy. Let's step back and look at how this dungeon loot powers the entire server.
Dungeons aren't just piggy banks for gold and shiny swords. They are the primary source of raw materials for pretty much every crafting profession. Need reagents for alchemy? Farm undead and demons. Need special hides for tailoring? Go hunt named creatures. Want to do necromancy? You need bone drops from the undead and deceit. It's this beautiful, self-sustaining loop. You farm the materials, supply a crafter, sell the finished gear, and use the profits to fund your next big run. Oh, and just a quick kind of funny detail here. Wood is totally absent from dungeon drop tables. If you want to be a carpenter or make bows, you can't go farming goblins for logs. You actually have to go lumberjacking out in the surface forests. It's a great little design choice because it ensures the overworld stays active, rather than having the entire player base just living underground like mole people.
All right, Section 6, your progression roadmap. Now that you understand the mechanics and the risks, let's talk about how you actually start this adventure without immediately getting crushed.
Consider this your survival guide. Step 1, do not rush underground. Hit 70 in your primary combat skill up on the safe trammel surface first. Step 2, head into Despise, and as you climb from 70 to 90 skill, transition over to Destard. Step 3, once you hit that 100 skill cap, you're ready to comfortably rotate through mid to high tier spots like Highfloth. And finally, Step 4, only when you're truly optimized and ready, that's when you take on the Doom Gauntlet and the Cutthroat Champion spawns in Felucca.
And you'll definitely need to adapt your playstyle as you go. Solo farming? Perfectly viable early on. It's a great chill way to get reliable income in those mid-tier zones. But Immortal Realm's social tempo is heavily built around cooperation. When you hit the really difficult high-tier zones, Doom, or the open PvP of Felucca, you are essentially required to group up. You need a 2 to 3 player squad with complementary roles, a tank, a damage dealer, a healer, if you want to succeed.
There's a quote from the source text that perfectly summarizes the whole experience. Skill matters more than gear, gear matters more than build optimization, group matters more than solo at the high end. And that right there is the ultimate philosophy of Immortal Realm. You could literally have the best draconic scale armor on the server, but down in the deep, your friends, your communication, and your strategy are just as important as your sword.
And that wraps up our explainer on the incredible dungeon systems of Immortal Realm. We've seen how the loot fuels the economy, how the environment itself tries to break you down, and how high risk directly equals high reward. So the only question left is, how are you going to write your story? When you step into the darkness, are you going to play it safe and trammel and quietly build your fortune, or will you brave the sickness, the monsters, and the cutthroat PvP of Felucca for a shot at ultimate glory? The choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, stay focused, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.